There are many myths surrounding the Kong armatures. How many were made? How tall were they? Where are they now? The amount of conflicting and just plain wrong information I came across while researching this topic is staggering. It's my hope that I can clear these questions up and provide something of a timeline for these armatures. The place to start, I suppose, would be just how many armatures were made. Most books on the history of King Kong state that there were two 18-inch armatures made for the jungle scenes of Kong, and one 24-inch armature made to scale up Kong for his rampage through New York. Nobody gives their source on how they know this, so I can only go on what I have. In an interview in the 1970s, Marcel Delgado, the maker of the Kong armatures, stated adamantly that only two were ever made. As for there being a taller 24-inch armature for the New York scenes, it's more likely that they just made the miniature sets around the armature smaller in scale to make it appear larger. These armatures needed almost daily repair by Delgado to keep them in working order. The studio lights would dry out the rubber skin, causing Delgado to remake the face entirely every time it needed to be worked on. This likely explains the small changes in Kong's appearance from scene to scene. These armatures were made by hand with no mold to maintain consistency. Kong would go through several designs making him more human, until it was decided to make him more or less a gorilla with a smaller gut. Delgado would create the first armature sometime prior to May 1932, made with a metal armature skeleton which was then fitted with rubber, cotton, and string to fill out his frame. This was then coated in latex rubber to make the skin of the armature, and rabbit fur was used for the fur. While it's been said by Delgado himself even that the two armatures were 18 inches tall, this Kong measures in at 22.5 inches, standing straight up. Maybe Delgado was referring to the size of the armature hunched over, like a gorilla would likely be, but we just don't know. This armature, dubbed long face by the Kong fans due to the long oval shape of the face, was used to film the test footage for Kong that would be incorporated into the film. Specifically, the log scene and the fight with the T-Rex. Once the film was greenlit officially, another armature was made. Whether Cooper had this new one made because he thought the long face of the armature made him too human looking, or another was made so that they had a spare in case one broke down, I can't say. This new one was made much the same way as the old one, with a rounder face, dubbed round face by Kong fans. This Kong measures 19.5 inches, slightly smaller than the previous one. The round face Kong is used for pretty much every shot, not including the test footage. Once the film was finished, round face would be repurposed for Son of Kong, also released in 1933. All the armatures would be put into storage at RKO until 1962. During this time, the long-faced Kong would disappear. Phil Kellison, in need of some puppets for the film Jack the Giant Killer, would buy boxes of armatures from RKO's storage. He was surprised to find that he had purchased Kong himself, specifically the round-faced Kong that had been reused for Son of Kong. The rubber skin had started eating away at the metal skeleton underneath, so Kellison had to have it steam cleaned down to the metal skeleton to preserve it. He would loan it out to a museum called Movie World in Buena Park, California in the 1970s. The museum went out of business and the armature was almost lost. Then, in 1975, Bob Burns, a friend of Kellison's, ran across the miniature in the corner of a storage shed where the pieces from Movie World were stored. Burns had gone there to help a friend pick up an original Robbie the Robot. Burns then contacted Kellison immediately, and Kellison was able to recover the armature. Kellison would then give the armature to Burns to look after, where it resides to this day. This would be the end of the story, if not for a seemingly random auction house in London in 2009 claiming to have an authentic Kong armature standing 22.5 inches tall. How it got there is anyone's guess. They incorrectly advertised it as the 24-inch Kong armature that was used in the New York scenes of the film. Filmmaker Peter Jackson would win the auction and compare it with Burns' armature. They found that Jackson's was authentic and made somewhat more crudely than Burns'. Because of this, they surmised that this was the long-faced, used in the test footage for Kong. The armature resides with Jackson to this day. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoy this type of content, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'll be doing a lot more of these going forward. If you liked the video, leave it a like too and let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll see you in the next one.